Episode 8. Forging unity in the fires of preparation. The once peaceful village hummed with a newfound energy. Gone were the days of leisurely gossip and predictable routines. Now, a sense of urgency crackled in the air, a shared determination to face the encroaching darkness. Elara, at the center of this whirlwind, found herself a leader in a way she never imagined. She spent her days not just baking bread, but also organizing the villagers. With Gregor's help, they transformed the village square into a makeshift training ground. Men and women, young and old, practiced wielding pitchforks and axes, their movements hesitant at first but gaining strength with each passing day. Kai, their celestial guide, proved to be an invaluable asset. Though their powers remained limited after their encounter with the shadowy creature, they shared their knowledge of the darkness, its weaknesses, and the ancient magic that could be used to combat it. They tutored the villagers in simple defensive spells, whispers of forgotten power that hummed with an otherworldly energy. Evenings were spent huddled around Elara's hearth, a flickering beacon of warmth in the face of the coming storm. Old man Thomas, his voice raspy with age, recounted forgotten tales of past battles against the darkness, stories that ignited a spark of courage in every listener. Anya, the young woman with fiery determination, emerged as Elara's right hand, helping organize drills and keeping spirits high. One crisp evening, as Elara kneaded dough, her brow furrowed in worrying. The starseed, nurtured by Gregor's skilled hand, had grown into a magnificent flower, its petals shimmering with an otherworldly light. But Kai's warnings echoed in her mind. The starseed, though powerful, wouldn't be enough on its own. They needed a way to amplify its energy, to create a beacon that could push back the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a memory surfaced from Elara's childhood, a story her grandmother used to tell about a hidden well deep within the Whispering Woods, a place rumored to hold forgotten magic. A spark of hope ignited within Elara. Perhaps the well held the key to amplifying the starseed's power. The next morning, Elara shared her plan with Gregor and Kai. Anya, ever enthusiastic, volunteered to accompany them. Despite their reservations about venturing into the rumored dangers of the Whispering Woods, they knew they had little choice. As they set off, a heavy silence settled over the village. The villagers, aware of their mission, watched them go with a mixture of trepidation and hope. Elara, Gregor, Kai, and Anya, a baker, a blacksmith, a celestial scout, and a courageous villager, their unlikely fellowship ventured into the heart of the unknown, carrying the fate of their world on their shoulders. Episode 9. Whispers in the Woods. The Whispering Woods, true to their name, greeted the travellers with a constant murmur of rustling leaves and unseen movements. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, casting long, eerie shadows across the forest floor. Elara gripped the handle of her flour sack, repurposed as a makeshift backpack, a shiver running down her spine despite the summer heat. Beside her, Gregor, his weathered face etched with concern, scanned the undergrowth, his hand resting on the hilt of his trusty hammer. Kai, their celestial guide, remained silent, their blue eyes searching the tangled branches as if looking for unseen threats. Anya, her auburn braid swinging as she walked, chewed on her lip, her usual bravado slightly dampened by the oppressive atmosphere. As they ventured deeper, the whispers grew louder, morphing into unintelligible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves. Elara felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, a sense of being watched. Suddenly, a twig snapped in the distance. Everyone froze, their senses on high alert. Anya, the quickest of the group, unsheathed a hunting knife she kept hidden in her boot. Gregor stepped forward, his hammer held like a shield. Then, a figure emerged from behind a giant oak, its movements fluid and silent. A young woman, clad in leathers the color of moss, stood before them, her long brown hair adorned with feathers and wildflowers. Her eyes, the color of emeralds, held a piercing intelligence. Who dares trespass in the heart of the Whispering Woods? She questioned, her voice surprisingly melodic for such a wild setting. Elara, taking a deep breath, stepped forward. "We come in peace," she declared, offering a hesitant smile. "We are from the village, and we seek the well of forgotten magic." The woman's gaze narrowed. "The well is a dangerous place, not meant for the likes of you." Elara explained their predicament, the threat of the encroaching darkness, and their need for the well's magic to amplify the starseed's power. As she spoke, the young woman's expression softened. A flicker of recognition crossed her features. "The starseed," she murmured. "I have heard whispers on the wind, stories of a chosen one and a celestial bloom." She studied each of them in turn, her gaze lingering on Kai. "Very well," she finally conceded. "The well may hold the answer you seek, but know this, its magic comes with a price." Intrigued, Elara exchanged a nervous glance with her companions. There was no turning back now. Following the young woman, who introduced herself as Elara, a coincidence that sent shivers down the baker's spine, they ventured deeper into the woods. The path grew steeper, the whispers morphing into a cacophony of strange sounds. Finally, they reached a clearing bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center, a well of shimmering water pulsated with an otherworldly energy. "The Well of Whispers," Elara the Wild One announced, her voice hushed with reverence. "But beware, the well demands an offering. It will test your resolve, your very essence." With a heavy heart, Elara understood the price. They each needed to confront their deepest fears, their greatest weaknesses, in exchange for the well's magic. Would they have the strength to face their inner demons and emerge stronger, ready to combat the darkness that threatened their world? Episode 10, Echoes in the Well. The Well of Whispers shimmered before them, a vortex of swirling energy that pulsed with an otherworldly hum. Elara the villager swallowed hard, the weight of the price heavy on her heart. Elara the Wild One explained the well's ritual. Each of them, standing at the well's edge, would peer into its depths. The well would then conjure a personalized reflection, a manifestation of their deepest fears and insecurities. To access the well's magic, they had to overcome these inner demons. Anya stepped forward first, her chin held high despite the tremor in her hand. She gazed into the well, and a distorted image materialized, not a fearsome monster, but a reflection of Anya, older and alone, surrounded by empty fields and withered crops. A choked cry escaped her lips as she faced the fear of failing her village, of not being strong enough to protect their way of life. With a deep breath, Anya drew upon her courage, the stories of past heroes fueling her resolve. She envisioned the faces of her loved ones, their faith in her a source of strength. The distorted image flickered, then dissolved, replaced by a faint ripple of energy emanating from the well. Next, Gregor took a turn. He peered into the well, and a roar echoed through the clearing. A monstrous form, wielding a hammer far larger than his own, emerged from the well's depths. It was Gregor, but twisted and belligerent, a version of him consumed by anger and the need for control. Sweat beaded on Gregor's forehead as he faced his reflection. He had always struggled with his temper, a fear he kept tightly locked away. But now, staring into the well, he saw the destructive potential of his rage. He remembered Elara's kindness, the villagers' trust, and the shared purpose that bound them together. With a mighty roar that rivaled the one from the well, Gregor fought his inner demon. The monstrous form dissipated, replaced by a wave of calming energy that settled around the blacksmith. Elara the Wild One watched with a mix of admiration and concern as her companions faced their fears. Finally, it was Elara the villager's turn. She took a deep breath and peered into the well. A gasp escaped her lips. Standing across from her wasn't a monster or a distorted version of herself, but a grand bakery. It was everything Elara had ever dreamed of: opulent, renowned, filled with exotic ingredients and elaborate creations. But as she looked closer, a coldness emanated from the scene. The bakery was empty, devoid of warmth, laughter, or the comforting aroma of fresh bread. This was Elara's greatest fear, the fear of losing her connection to the village, to the people who mattered most. She envisioned the faces of her neighbors sharing stories over her bread, the simple joy she brought to their lives. A fierce determination ignited within her. She didn't want to be a famous baker. She wanted to be Elara, the baker who cared for her village. With newfound clarity, Elara pushed back against the image. The opulent bakery dissolved, replaced by a comforting image of her own bakery, filled with warmth and familiar faces. A gentle sigh escaped her lips as a surge of warm energy rippled from the well. Finally, Kai stepped forward. They remained silent for a long moment, their face etched with a struggle invisible to others. Then, they plunged a hand into the well's shimmering water. A gasp echoed through the clearing, but not from fear. It was a gasp of pain, of raw emotion. The well's surface churned, and a shadowy figure emerged. It wasn't a monster, but a celestial being, cloaked in darkness. Kai's reflection, their true celestial form, burdened by guilt and self-doubt. The shadowy figure lunged, accusing Kai of failing their duty, of bringing the darkness upon this world. Kai stumbled back, the weight of the accusation threatening to crush them. But then, they remembered the villagers' trust, Elara's unwavering support. They realized their fear was a self-inflicted prison. With a defiant cry, Kai pushed back against the darkness. They embraced their celestial heritage, their responsibility as a scout. The shadowy figure shrieked and dissolved, replaced by a blinding light that erupted from the well, bathing the clearing in an ethereal glow. As the light faded, Elara the villager and her companions stood together, exhausted but triumphant. They had faced their demons, and the Well of Whispers had bestowed its magic upon them. Now, they possessed the power to amplify the starseed, to create a beacon that could. Episode 11. Beacon in the darkness. Exhausted but exhilarated, Elara the villager and her companions emerged from the heart of the Whispering Woods. The Well of Whispers had tested them, forcing them to confront their deepest fears, but they had emerged stronger, their resolve hardened. Now, imbued with the well's magic, they carried the hope of repelling the encroaching darkness. As they neared the village, the familiar scent of wood smoke and freshly baked bread filled the air. Relief washed over Elara at home, yet a sense of urgency gnawed at her. Time was running out. Back in the bakery, bathed in the warm glow of the hearth, they revealed their success to the gathered villagers. Anya, Gregor, and Elara the Wild One recounted their trials at the well, their voices filled with a newfound confidence. The villagers, their faces etched with awe, listened intently. Elara the villager then explained the well's magic. It wouldn't vanquish the darkness outright, but it would allow them to amplify the starseed's power, creating a beacon that could push back the shadows and weaken the approaching threat. With a determined glint in her eyes, Elara presented the starseed, its otherworldly bloom pulsating with a faint light. Gregor, ever the craftsman, had built a sturdy stand for the flower, placing it in the center of the village square, following Elara's instructions. Each villager, empowered by the well's magic, channeled their own hopes and fears, their love for their home, into the starseed. A collective gasp echoed as the flower's light intensified, growing brighter with each passing moment. Elara the Wild One watched in wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered, a hint of pride in her voice. A beacon of defiance against the encroaching shadows. As night fell, the starseed pulsed with an otherworldly light, bathing the village in an ethereal glow. It stretched skyward, a beacon visible for miles around. A tense silence settled over the villagers, their eyes fixed on the celestial bloom. Suddenly, a low growl resonated from the distance, a sound that sent shivers down everyone's spine. The darkness was upon them. Dark, shadowy figures materialized on the horizon, their forms writhing with an unnatural energy. But before they could descend upon the village, the starseed's light intensified. It pulsed with a wave of raw power, pushing back against the darkness. The shadowy figures recoiled, their forms flickering in the face of the beacon's brilliance. A cheer erupted from the villagers, a sound laced with relief and newfound hope. The starseed, fueled by their collective will, was working. They weren't just villagers anymore. They were defenders of their home, united against the encroaching darkness. Elara the villager stood beside Kai, their hand clasped tightly in hers. A fierce determination burned in her chest. This was just the beginning. They had bought themselves time, but the true battle was yet to come. With the starseed as their beacon, they would face the darkness head-on, protecting their village, their world, and proving that even the most ordinary baker could rise to become a hero. Episode 12. United we stand. The starseed pulsed defiantly, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. The shadowy figures on the horizon writhed, their forms flickering as the celestial light pushed back against their malice. Cheers erupted from the villagers, a sound that echoed through the night, a testament to their newfound courage. Elara, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration, stood shoulder to shoulder with her companions. Beside her, Kai, their celestial form shimmering with newfound strength, offered a reassuring smile. Behind them, the villagers, armed with pitchforks, axes, and the wells magic woven into simple charms, stood firm. The first wave of creatures surged forward, their forms a grotesque mockery of life. Anya, her auburn braid flying as she charged, met them head-on. Her axe, imbued with the well's magic, cleaved through the shadows, her battle cry a fierce challenge. Gregor, a whirlwind of steel and determination, smashed into the fray. His hammer, empowered by the starseed's light, sent shockwaves through the darkness, disintegrating the shadowy figures on contact. The villagers, their initial fear replaced by a steely resolve, fought with surprising ferocity. They had a home to protect, loved ones to defend. Elara, her flower sack repurposed as a makeshift shield, joined the fray. Though not a warrior, she fought with the desperation of a cornered animal. But it wasn't just physical strength that tipped the scales. The starseed's light, fueled by the villagers' collective will, acted as a shield, deflecting blows and bolstering their courage. The battle raged throughout the night. The villagers, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. Each fallen creature meant one less threat, each successful blow a flicker of hope. As dawn approached, casting a pale light on the battlefield, the tide began to turn. Exhausted but unbroken, the villagers stood amidst the smouldering remains of the shadowy figures. The air crackled with spent energy, the silence heavy with the weight of their victory. Elara surveyed the scene, her body aching, but her spirit soaring. They had done it, they had pushed back the darkness, at least for now. But as she looked at the weary faces around her, a sobering realization settled in. This was just the first battle. The source of the encroaching darkness remained, a festering wound threatening to engulf their world. They needed a plan, a way to strike at the heart of the darkness and end the threat for good. Kai, their celestial form flickering slightly from exertion, stepped forward. "We need to find the source," they declared, their voice filled with newfound determination. "The source of the darkness that fuels these creatures," Elara the Wild One, ever the tracker, emerged from the shadows, a triumphant glint in her emerald eyes. "I may be able to help with that," she announced. "While you fought, I followed the whispers left behind by the creatures. They lead deeper into the whispering woods, to a place known as the Oblivion Gate. The battle raged throughout the night. The villagers, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. Each fallen creature meant one less threat, each successful blow a flicker of hope. As dawn approached, casting a pale light on the battlefield, the tide began to turn. Exhausted but unbroken, the villagers stood amidst the smouldering remains of the shadowy figures. The air crackled with spent energy, the silence heavy with the weight of their victory. Elara surveyed the scene, her body aching, but her spirit soaring. They had done it, they had pushed back the darkness, at least for now. But as she looked at the weary faces around her, a sobering realization settled in. This was just the first battle. The source of the encroaching darkness remained, a festering wound threatening to engulf their world. They needed a plan, a way to strike at the heart of the darkness and end the threat for good. Kai, their celestial form flickering slightly from exertion, stepped forward. "We need to find the source," they declared, their voice filled with newfound determination. "The source of the darkness that fuels these creatures," Elara the Wild One, ever the tracker, emerged from the shadows, a triumphant glint in her emerald eyes. "I may be able to help with that," she announced. "While you fought, I followed the whispers left behind by the creatures. They lead deeper into the whispering woods, to a place known as the Oblivion Gate." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The Oblivion Gate, whispered legend spoke of a gateway to a realm of pure darkness, a place from which nightmares spilled into the world. Elara the villager swallowed hard. This was far more than they bargained for. A direct assault on the source of the darkness seemed like a suicide mission. But then she looked at the resolute faces around her. Anya, her braids still damp with sweat, Gregor, his weathered face etched with determination, and the villagers, their eyes shining with a newfound courage. They had faced the darkness once, and they had emerged victorious. They would do it again, together. Raising her chin, Elara met Kai's gaze, a silent vow passing between them. The baker, the blacksmith, the celestial scout, the wild woman, And the united villagers, they were a band of unlikely heroes, forged in the fires of adversity. The battle for their world had just begun, and they would face it head-on, their courage fueled by the flickering hope of a brighter tomorrow.